welcome back everyone. So we will now continue with our next session, Data Spaces Ready in Action, where we will see concrete examples of how Gaia-X principles are being applied across sectors. Please welcome our moderator, Alberto Curatolo, Chief Financial Officer of Gaia-X, who will lead this session. Alberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for being here till the end. This is the last panel before networking, cocktail, and dinner. So the only thing I can promise to you, apart from giving you something concrete, is to make it on time for dinner. So this is a panel that I cherish particularly because it's about concrete examples of what data spaces are doing. In the last few years, we've been building, theories, we've been building models, we've been building concepts, but now we have concrete examples of what data spaces are. So we moved from a mere idea to a concrete application. And today, I would like to welcome three persons that are going to represent like 3 data spaces which are really delivering and are already working right now. So I would like to call on stage Wolfgang Kniejski from EuProGigant. Then for Data Space for Health, I would like to call Ralf Hustadt from Entity Data. And last but not least, for the project Cooperants, Arno Scheidereiter from Neusta Association. Thank you very much. So, I would like to start by talking about Data Space for Health. It's something that, when I reviewed this project, I think it's something that touches a little bit everyone. And I would like you to tell us a little bit, about the project, how it started, and what it's delivering right now.
Yeah, happy. Is it working? Yeah, happy to do so. So I think maybe as a first introduction, so when the Data Space for Health started, I'm not one of the fathers of that project. I'm more of a godfather of that project, because at the time I was still sitting on the other side being the hub coordinator, and I said, listen guys, we have some public money over here, do something sensible with that. And at that time Michael approached me, Michael Mossad from Entity Data. I said, yeah, well, we're always interested in R&D. There's a fairly big R&D budget in our organization, and he said, which vertical do you want us to work in? And I said, well, space would be good. Finance is always important in Luxembourg. And he said, how about health? And I said, well, if it has to be health, well, then go for health. Turned out it was a very, very good choice. He managed to do one thing, and that was basically bringing every relevant player in Luxembourg into the project. They're not all contributing to the same level, but I think it's very, very important to have all relevant players in there, because that basically also eliminates that, you have somebody feeling left out, an organization not feeling as contributing to the whole thing. And from there, it actually took off quite well. We are now actually at the end of the first funding phase, and we got an extension based on a request. And the ministry said, hey, this is running fine, please do continue. Now then the question is actually, how are we going to continue with the Data Space for Health? But I think we'll leave that up for later discussion. So where are we now? I think it's, health is one of the most hardest areas you can do any data work in, because it is just heavily regulated. So number one. Another thing that I just learned when I changed companies and was working with entity data, I had a discussion with one of the CIOs of the hospitals. And I said, why don't we do this and that and here and there? And he said, listen, you know, my job is something else. And he said, my job is making sure the IT runs for saving people's lives. Yeah? And before he was the CIO of an airline, he said, if an airline stops, well, then the airplanes will land, people will exit, they might not get their suitcase, some planes might not take off. But if the IT of a hospital stops, people are dead. Yeah? So I do understand that without any, let's say, external push and from various stakeholders, their focus will never be in developing data spaces and abstract concepts around that one. So I think that's very, very important to, let's say, have some funding at least to kickstart the projects, number one. Number two, have the relevant players in there so that nobody feels left out. And then you simply need to come up with a good idea and a concrete use case. So we had two, and they were actually nicely delivered. And well, if anybody wants to go into detail, there's my colleague over there. Is he going to be at the booth tomorrow? I think it's a little bit later at after lunchtime, but happy to discuss that in the booth in more detail.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to introduce you to the project EuProGigant. Wolfgang actually will explain us that machines sometimes can cooperate better than humans. So I give you the floor, and please tell us a little bit more about this complex data space that is quite promising and actually is delivering, you know, now concrete results.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alberto. How can we switch the slides? Is it done automatically?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, first of all, don't be scared. I will not again introduce EuProGigant in detail. I think it was done several times during this kind of events. I will talk more about the fact, why do we believe that this is a sustainable ecosystem? Yeah, how can we make it from an organizational, financial, and personal point sustainable? What are the ingredients to make it successful? And this is summarized on the next slide. So what we need if we want to be successful in setting up and operating a data space, and especially in the manufacturing sector, one ingredient is a trusted infrastructure. And this is given. This is given by the Gaia-X compliant architecture, which provides the data space participant with the technical values that were discussed many, many times, like interoperability, trustworthiness, security, safety, and so on and so on. But on top of the technical values of the data space, the participants have to understand what are the business values. Yeah, what kind of relevant manufacturing data can I share to get the benefit for me as a company, for me as a participant in the ecosystem, and how can I create value by being a partner in the manufacturing data ecosystem? And this is what we considered. So the next slide shows it. It's about talking business and not talking technology anymore. And when we talk about business, we talk about two different perspectives of business in a data space, in a data ecosystem. On the one hand, we have to look at the business model, how to run a federating unit, how to run an orchestrating entity successfully, sustainably, lastingly, also from a financial point of view. Therefore, we need a business model. And it's here sketched with the green arrows. So we have to think about the role of a federator, of an orchestrator, and how the orchestrator can monetize activities to run and to operate the business. Then we see the blue arrows. These are the processes which the operator then runs. Yeah, getting participants into the ecosystem, assigning verifiable credentials, offering catalog services, going into the exchange with price negotiation, contract negotiation, and so on and so on. This is given in the meantime. And on top of this, and this was one of the success factors of EuProGigant, we talked about business cases. We looked at the participants and say, how do they interact in a data space? And we developed the technical architecture and the business models, both in parallel, alongside use cases. We selected real use cases from different manufacturing scenarios and developed both aspects alongside those use cases. And this allowed us, and this is shown in the next slide, to talk about the real competitive advantages what the data space creates for its participants. So we can go into detail when we have this panel discussion, but to summarize, if you are willing to share data, and if you have the ability to share data with other participants in a trusted environment, you can gain cost and time savings for your own business. You can gain reduction of downtime cycles, reduction of scrap production, and so on and so on. And those competitive advantages, those single value propositions for every use case in a manufacturing supply chain lead to company values. Technology gets more valuable. It's fed with data. Market expansion is possible. You can access new customers with data sharing. You build new value chains. Very important, because we want to make the European manufacturing system competitive again. It contributes with 20% in average to our growth, to our wealth. We have to keep it. We have to bring value and supply chains back to Europe. This is a contribution of ecosystems as well. And this leads to resilience. And this is what we did. So the summary slide says our success factors are a working, trusted architecture, Gaia-X compliant, business values for the participants, new value chains that were built, even moved back to Europe, which are resilient, circular, and so on and so on. And this is enabled by data sharing. This is EuProGigant.
Thank you very much, Wolfgang. This is absolutely interesting, but then, I think we should get a little bit deeper into this. But for the moment, I would like to give the floor to Arno, who, let's say, is going to give, the perspective of a sector where trust, precision, and security are non-negotiable.
That's correct. Thank you, Alberto. So, yeah, it's the first time I'm allowed to introduce Cooperants on stage. It's not as famous as EuProGigant, so I will definitely make the best out of it and introduce it from scratch. Because I'm not sure if everybody knows Cooperants yet. So Cooperants is started in 2022 as a consortium of the leading spatial actors in our industry. You have OHB, one of the leading satellite manufacturers in Europe, maybe worldwide. You have Airbus Defence and Space, very famous where we come from in Bremen for the Columbus module in the International Space Station. By the way, the most expensive project of humankind. And you have all the other important actors you need for a research and development project, like the Fraunhofer Institute or the German DLR, the German NASA if you want. And you have the small and medium enterprises like us, Neusta Aerospace. We are a small and medium enterprise headquartered in Bremen. We are IT supplier of the aerospace sector. And you have other companies involved, even a few startups. Yes, so we started with this groupment in 2022. And the idea was to build a data space. We didn't really know what a data space is going to be like, but we know one thing. We knew the challenges of our sector. And building a spacecraft or building an aircraft is a super complex thing to do. And like you say, Alberto, it's highly critical. Like you don't want an aircraft to crash, right? It's the same like in a hospital. It's 300 human lives. You don't want a launcher rocket to crash. There were such catastrophes happening in the past. So this is definitely a sector where mistakes and flaws are not acceptable. It's mission critical. So we started with a project, and the goal was to build a system or a platform for collaborative engineering. You know, in the tech sector, there's the V-model engineering, and it's a very complex thing to do. Many different departments, from design engineering to manufacturing engineering, quality management, procurement, material management. You have the end-to-end change process through an entire organization, and thousands of people are working together on one super complex product. And in the past, how would you work together? You would send around PDF specifications via email, and yeah. And then Mr. X is on holiday, Mrs. Y is sick, and that would block the entire process, the entire workflow that is supposed to happen. Very hard way to work together. So now, with a data space like Cooperants, we really have a seamless way to do collaborative engineering. It's not just a data space, it's also a tool chain developed and built by the leading actors in the sector. So we are not using Microsoft Project, we are not using other tools that are known on the market. Actually, the actors develop their own tools because they know their own challenges the best, right? And there's roughly about 10 years of expertise in certain tools that have been developed, like a risk management tool, like a digital twin tool, like AI-supported dashboards, engineering dashboards, program management, everything you need to really to be able to manage an entire program has been developed as use cases in the data space. Yeah, so maybe we can go to the next slide. I don't have many slides. I think it's just those two. Oh no, there's another one, I see. So you have the actors, and it turned out that we would been going to build the data space with Pontus X. What's one of many solutions out there to build data spaces is the data spaces support center toolkit conform tooling, and it enables you to build data spaces. And it's already a growing ecosystem where we have interoperability between many other data spaces like EuProGigant and others you see here on the slide. So for me, and I don't know everything, but from what I know today, it's one of the best-in-class tooling you can use. Let's call it tech stack. Call it what you want. You can build data spaces with it. And from aspects of what we are looking here, interoperability, sovereignty, open source, it's one of the best-in-class solutions available today, anticipating interoperability everywhere. Yes, so maybe we can go to the next slide. I talked a little bit about what Cooperants' value proposal is. It's a tool chain. It's a place where many different actors from many different legal entities can meet and work together. An analogy I like to do is there is in the building sector, the building, the BIM, the building information modeling, I think, building information modeling, where the architects and all the different enterprises working on big building projects together, they have to use it, it's mandatory, so big planning problems don't occur. And this is actually a very good analogy to what we are trying to do with Cooperants. It's a platform, a system everyone can use, all the different companies that are working together on a spacecraft to collaborate seamlessly in real time together. So you really have an end-to-end change process. If something is being changed on the design, then everybody else has to act according to it and update his data, their data according to it. So the entire project, which is super complex, is maturing together. On the next slide, we have a little bit the timeline of the things we, the story of Cooperants. It started in 2022. In 2024, we were recognized by Gaia-X as a lighthouse project, and in 2025, we have actually succeeded to be a Gaia-X lighthouse data space. I think we were the fourth one. And for us, it was really a success story because before you only had Catena-X out there. And all of a sudden, you had that growing ecosystem of Gaia-X projects and data spaces. And so it was an honor to be able to be part of this project, to work on this project together with all those renowned and novel partners on this consortia. Yes, in the year 25 also the funding ended. The Cooperants project was a 20 million euro expensive project funded by averagely 50%, so 10 million euro national funding of German Ministry for Economics and Sustainability. And yes, it was a successful project. We delivered, and we reached the Gaia-X standard conformity by then, and based on Targus release. And yes, and this what happens after a funded project is over. It's the famous valley of death, right? So all our partners working on the project, that's actually a funny anecdote to tell, they're all coming from research and development departments, right? So what will they do when the funding ends? They'll stop working on it. Super sad, right? You have like created value for 20 million euro, and then you just pull the plug. That was going to happen on 1st of April 2025. And then we said from Neusta, like a 30-people company, we won't let that happen. We will keep on with Cooperants. So today we are the project coordinator. We are the operator of Cooperants. We are running a Pontus X validator alongside a Gaia-X digital clearinghouse. So our goal as small company was like, we're going to deliver the full package. We want to cover the full package, everything what's there, what's Gaia-X, what's interoperability, what's sovereignty, what's European digital strategy, we'll do it, we'll deliver it. And now we are aiming at 2026, maybe on the last slide. I thought it was just 2 slides, I'm so sorry, Alberto. So, yeah, on the next slide you'll see that tomorrow I'll be talking at 10 o'clock in the Partners Theater about our way to success. How will we scale a proof of concept, an operational data space, and just in Germany we are aiming at around about 800 suppliers in the space sector that we need to onboard. And well, the funding is over, and pretty much after talking to the ministry again, the German Ministry for Digitalization, the feedback was like, that's it, the market got regulated now. You have an operational data space. It's up to us to really scale it now. And it's like a fax machine. If you have one, it's not really purposeful. You need at least 2, right? You need the participants. And we have the LSI, the large system integrators, on board. Now there is a supply chain to be integrated. Just in Germany, estimated 800 participants on our data space. That's our job of tomorrow, and everybody's welcome to help. So yes, if you like, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I'm going to talk a little bit about the new narrative, the new onboarding narrative. It's already on the map from the board of directors of Gaia-X. We need to talk onboarding. We need to talk about clarifying, simplifying Gaia-X. We have to make it understandable. I'm talking to customers, to potential participants of the data space that still say, I don't understand it. I don't understand the data space. I don't understand Gaia-X. And that's what we are doing now, and I think we are successful. And the map of Gaia-X, 170 projects, Catherine just said in the welcome meeting, is proving us right. We are growing, we are becoming sustainable, and we are successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Arno. Thank you, everyone. I think I delivered the initial promise. I meant to show you how data spaces are really operating. So it's not anymore about concepts and ideas. I mean, these are 3 concrete examples of what a data space is doing, what a data space is delivering, how a data space is concretely organized, and most importantly, I mean, what is the potential of a data space for the future? Because also from what we heard today from the different panels, one thing is clear is that those data spaces are the infrastructure on which the future vertical AIs are going to be built. And this is something actually that we shouldn't forget. This is a strategy that is aligned among member states with the European Commission, and seeing concrete examples of all that, personally, I think it gives like a good hope for the future and an explanation that what we've been doing till now is getting into the right direction. Before asking if the audience has some questions, I have some questions actually for you. I've been requested to surprise them, which I will happily do. Hoping at the same time, I mean, to provide all of you with some useful information about each one of these projects. And I would like to get back to you, Ralf, because you didn't want to share too much at the beginning, but yeah, I think now it's time to give us a few more information about data space for health, which is now evolving. So my first question is, data space for health, I mean, is building a data space that supports the entire life cycle of AI-enabled healthcare applications. So from clinical trials, I mean, to post-market monitoring, etc. So how does this concrete support accelerate innovation on one hand, and on the second hand, I mean, prepare for market readiness?
Yeah, so like I said before, sometimes it's hard to get all relevant players on board and do something which is not necessarily in their, let's say, comfort zone or in their core business. Like the hospitals, where I said, you know, the hospital needs to make sure that people who are sick come to the hospital and are leaving the hospital, well, preferably alive and in a better status than before. So that's what hospitals do, you know? Then ICT companies, they do ICT stuff. You know, if you ask them, hey, can you provide us with some hardware? Can you provide us with some software? They will do that. But they're not research companies per se. If you talk to research companies, they say, well, our stuff is primarily doing research. You give us some money, we'll make people who are smart even smarter, and we will produce some intellectual property. Now, all of that is kind of nice, but if it does not really fit together. So there's a little bit of glue missing to actually foster innovation. So, and that's the beauty about the data space for health. I mean, Arno said it, huh? It's like you put some money into there and now the project is over. He said, oh, would have been very, very sad if we let all these artifacts and developed IP go to waste. So I think concrete outcomes are the two use cases that we focused on, and we built something that, well, it goes up to a certain TRL, of course, because you are not allowed to build a ready-made product, and we are not a medical company that can build something that is certified. But I think what we built together with all the other participants, with LIH, with LNDS, with the Robert Schumann, with Isonte, so with all the players, shows actually that if you spark the whole thing with a little bit of money, you can deliver a lot of IP and take it to the next level. So it just goes same thing as we had for the aerospace, I think counts for the medical space. Now the next thing, of course, is how do you actually put that together with AI? And that's what we did in one of the use cases, and I'm really, really happy because what we saw on all the previous slides today just confirms that what we are experiencing. So data and AI are not separated projects anymore. In the past, it was a lot of separated. You know, AI is a software thingy, and very experimental, somewhere in the academic corner. I don't know what these guys are doing, machine learning, however that works, you know. That's what most people thought, and they only started thinking about AI when they started playing with ChatGPT and Co. Now you see on the other side, the data world. The data world goes into cloud, goes into interoperability, and that is very, very mature. But what we see now is it actually comes together, and we are delivering on those things for new projects. And I think, well, we probably continue in that path, and we'll see a lot more things happening in that area.
That's very interesting. And what I think is also interesting about data space for health is the fact that now it's evolving into something else, because now it's moving from a health data space to a fully multi-vertical data space for Luxembourg. So it's a national case, but the beautiful thing is that, I mean, it brings together like a lot of actors, big players, different sectors. So can you please tell us a little bit more about this? Because it's also in line with what has been discussed today. I mean, the fact that now data spaces, I mean, should reduce their fragmentation, and they should try actually, I mean, to move towards like a multi-sector approach. and also bring in different players together from different sectors actually to deliver something important.
Yeah, so maybe starting with the tagline. Huh? Remember you asked us about the tagline, and I started with quoting Pierre saying, data doesn't flow on rainbows, and planes don't fly without any fuel, at least not very long, and projects don't fly without any money. So at one point in time, you need to get rid out of that funding mode and try to find more public money. Yeah, and I think we are now, most of the lighthouse projects are in a maturity state where we can say, listen, what we have here is concrete enough, is mature enough, we have delivered enough IP to actually fund that out of sensible projects. But I mean, Wolfgang is talking about the same thing here on the other side, and we're doing the same thing. And there are three axes that something like a data space for health in Luxembourg can evolve into. So one option is we go up north, we go international. It's definitely something that is on the radar. And that's the European health data space, because that is a huge problem on European level, and I think Gaia-X has a perfect opportunity to actually go in that one, where we try to coordinate among all these European players. Second option is you go say, okay, fine, we have done 2 use cases. Now we loop in all the other local players on health, or maybe pharmaceuticals. So we had fantastic feedback when we demoed the data space for health abroad in Brussels. There were pharmaceuticals, and they looked at it, and they were getting really, really hyped. And they looked at this stuff and said, this is so cool. Like, does that mean like secondary health care cases, and we can get our access to the data potentially? And they were even willing to pay for that. When we said, whoa, this is not like a shop now in any case, but it could deliver or could be built into that thing. Now the third option is you go wide, and you basically say, we have a team in Luxembourg, we know how the local ecosystem plays, and we just loop in the other players, and we develop into other use cases apart from health. And that's what we are currently doing. That's why we're also relabeling it data space for Luxembourg, where we said, oh, local power supply is interested in that one. And I think the really important part for that, and that is probably very unique because of the size of Luxembourg, we managed to get all relevant players on board. Relevant players meaning companies that typically compete with each other. So we are in there as a large ICT player. We have Post with Deep in there, which is like the local incumbent. We have Proximus Luxembourg in there, really nice, because they have already the clearinghouse coming from their mother company in Belgium. And most important, we also have, because we're talking about AI, we also have Lux Provide in there. That's our local supplier for our local HPC. So, and that is actually the part that delivers AI. So if you look at it, we have experience now with the projects, and we have basically the whole portfolio of players in there. So Deep, which is the brand of Post, for example, some people don't know, there's OVH behind it, and we had them on screen over here. Proximus, Lighthouse, we bring the experience. We have a supercomputer, we have the people to deliver the projects. What more do you want to actually be ready to deliver use cases outside the natural area? So that's also one of the reasons why we are expanding, let's say, east and westwards.
Yeah, so this is actually a good proof, I mean, that even in a small reality like Luxembourg, I mean, you can do something so big. So that's quite a great achievement. Also, I mean, for you, Wolfgang, I mean, I have a question because, you moved into like a service ecosystem now, so you became actually bigger. You already presented something, but I really would like to ask you to provide like a use case that can show how sovereign data sharing actually works in practice, because this is also one of the principles that we've been discussing over the years. But I think it's interesting to see, I mean, what does it mean concretely, having like sovereign data sharing, in action.
Yeah, I think it's very relevant because this is what we are actually doing. So in a data space which is not used is useless. Yeah. And so what we have to do, we have to get the participants in. And this is what you also addressed. And the participants in the manufacturing ecosystem are the SMEs. As I already said, they produce our wealth. But the SMEs are hesitating. Yeah. look at the digital transformation. SMEs are behind expectation. Yeah, they start here and there to digitalize. But every time when you digitalize, when you go into an innovative investment, yeah, to upgrade your manufacturing processes, you create data. Yeah, and this data should be used. And this is what we tell the SMEs. So we go on the road, we demystify, yeah, and therefore we use examples. And I was thinking about one example. Let's say you are a provider of an AI maintenance system, and I am the SME that is using it. So you sell me your solution, I say, great. Yeah, I do predictive maintenance on one machine. I extract 200 data per day to understand when I have to switch off my machine to maintain it so that I reduce false production at the end. So you charge me the implementation fee, 80,000 euro. You charge me a recurring fee every quarter, every half year or whatsoever, and you charge me training fees and so on and so on. This is your business. My business is I get knowledge. Yeah, I know how to handle my machines, and I go into cost reduction, reduction of scrap production, and so on. And I produce every day 200 data, which I extract out of the machine, out of sensors, and so on and so on. So now Wolfgang Kniejski from EuProGigant comes and says, hey, SME entrepreneur, yeah, use your data. And I will say, no, I hesitate. This is my IP. I want to know where the data goes. I want to know where other data come from. I will not share. Then Wolfgang Kniejski tells me, 90% of the data that you extract from your machine is not IP. You can share it. And what the benefit is, go back to your predictive maintenance tool provider. Yeah, and I do it. And I say, Alberto, I feed you with data that I got out of my systems with your software. Yeah, and you have a value and I have a value. Your value is your AI system gets smarter. You can sell it for a higher price in the future. And my value is you reduce my recurring fees that I have to pay every quarter. So you have a benefit, I have a benefit, win-win. And this is an example that SMEs have to understand. Yeah, we have the value propositions that we can extract out of data sharing activities. And this has to be taught, this has to be told, yeah, this has to be understood. And then we get into it.
That's great, and actually, I mean, you basically anticipated my second question because, of course, I mean, one of the biggest issues, I mean, that data spaces are facing nowadays is onboarding SMEs for different reasons, you know, because, first of all, I mean, it's a matter of trust. So SMEs actually, I mean, they have the biggest value in the data that they share. So as long as they're not 100% sure, actually, that they're going to get value in sharing what is most valuable for them, of course, I mean, there's still going to be this hesitation. And this is one part. The other part actually is also overcoming the complexity, you know, linked to the bureaucratic part, the administrative part, the legal part, that an SME doesn't have the resource actually meant to face. So this is why, I mean, having, you know, like, you know, an ecosystem like this, I mean, onboarding you as an SME helps you to overcome, you know, all these complex, you know, parts of being part of the ecosystem. And we also, so this morning, I mean, SMEs are one of the pillars. I mean, one of the part of the strategy of the European Commission is really to support the onboarding of SMEs. So I think actually this is a concrete example of how this can be done. So thank you, I mean, for providing actually this example. That was going to be my next question. And now I'm gonna come back to you, Arno, because your data space, I mean, is really something quite unique for many reasons. But my question is, Cooperants connects over 100 aerospace stakeholders. What is the biggest breakthrough that proves that data space is operational and industry ready?
Well, you know, just there are maybe several aspects to answer that question. But I think one of the highlights definitely, especially in Germany, is, you know, a bureaucracy-loving country, is, you have digital contracting services enabling seamless collaboration. That really helps. That was really appreciated and embraced by all participants. I talked a little bit about the set of application, the tool chain, like a tool suite developed by the aerospace or by the space participants, by the space sector itself. So they delivered or developed their own tooling, which is definitely one of the strongest value proposals. So you're not buying Microsoft and it's a generic tool that you have to adapt, or I mean like other software solutions that you have to do a lot of configuration implementation on. It's actually applications that are built from and for the actors. So you have the contracting part, you have the tooling part. That's pretty clear value proposals already. But definitely what was the breakthrough for us, because we started in 2022, it was definitely the Tagos version with the verifiable credentials that enabled. We started with the EV SSL certificates. Now we moved on with Loire to EIDAS, which is coming much closer to what we are anticipating in 2026, 2027, with the introduction of OID wallets. So I think we still have a couple of breakthroughs in front of us, but right now that would be my answer, that these are the things that the big enablers up until today. And the latest enabler that we are working on now are the SSI wallets, which is actually a preview of EIDAS version 2, and what is awaiting us with the OID wallets in the future. Because that will go for every citizen. So every C-level in every organization will be running around with the OID wallets. Try to imagine that. And then every employee will be running around with the OID wallet. And then we will have bring your own device, bring your own wallet. And that will enable a whole new era of identity and access management to digital systems of organizations. And that's what we're anticipating, and what we have now is a proof of concept and maybe also is an interim solution. But Rome hasn't been built in a day. It's a famous saying. So we're still building Rome, and I'm really excited for what is awaiting us in the next years.
But, I mean, you using like a Gaia-X aligned marketplace, you have onboarding solutions. So how do you think Cooperants, I mean, can overflow into other sectors? How do you think, I mean, this can, I don't want to say scale up, but, you know, open horizontally, you know, how do you think, I mean, this can evolve? If we have to figure out, you know, like a possible evolution, you know, multi-domain evolution.
You mean of Cooperants itself? How it could evolve in the future? Well, in my idea of interoperability is that there is many different data spaces and they are all interoperable. I'm looking forward for the day where all the solutions converge in types of standards, and it doesn't matter anymore which tech stack you are using, but everybody is able to exchange data which each other. That's actually where the magic would start happening, right? And so this is what I anticipate in the future, and this would be another amazing value proposal, that you get out of all those single silos. So we are somewhere in a scenario or landscape of piercing silos from that. For the aerospace sector, it's already an amazing thing that the engineers talk to the manufacturing and they are able to talk to the quality management. These are departments that they actually on site, it's like an office next to each other, but they don't talk to each other, and they're even stakeholders of their data. Sometimes they don't even share data for multiple reasons. Maybe it's a security restricted reason, maybe it's a political reason. There are many reasons why they are not sharing data. And we are looking at a world that is embracing to share data. It starts being with a total different mindset of its own. So if you enable that technically, and then you go beyond that, that actually data spaces talk to each other, and a manufacturing data space is able to exchange data with a space sector dedicated data space, and we can actually, you know, the organization can have more connection to the health data of its organization, of the people working for the organization. All that is more seamlessly intertwined. I think that's an amazing change and evolution, not only in the world of data spaces, but in the momentum or in the era of the digital revolution we are all part of.
Totally agree with you.
Thank you.
So if there are no questions from the audience, there is. Fantastic. I'm going to come to you.
Thank you very much. I have a question to Arno. Yeah. Arno, would you want to integrate the Cooperants into the Decade X and Aerospace X ecosystem?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Applause. Funny anecdote. I'm trying really to push the idea of interoperability. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm, from my understanding, that would mean interoperability means that we all meet. And it doesn't matter if I'm riding a bike and you ride a car and he's riding a boat, right? So we would all meet on the same island. And yes, the answer is yes. And we will, in what is in our power to do, we will work on interoperability, like, for example, how Pontus X is working with Dynamo to be interoperable, how they are working with Eclipse to be interoperable. Today, I was supporting the discussion about how can we collaborate with Gaia-X to find ways of being interoperable. Can we build proof of concepts for data connectors between all those different worlds? Because that would mean convergence. That would mean that you can take your bike, I can take my UFO, you can take the rocket, but we would all meet on the same island. And I don't know if the analogy is okay for everyone here, but it's about the purpose, right? We want to exchange data, everybody. We don't want to build new silos. We don't want the next solution to be the new Microsoft, the next digital colonialists of our digital world, right? So if you think about the digital revolution and that digital is going to be owned by everyone, like Beethoven's symphonies today are owned by the people. I don't know after how many, maybe 100 years, intellectual property is going to the people, but that shall happen with digitalization. It shall be owned by the people at the end. And maybe we are early. Maybe that will be in 100 years. Yeah. But we're starting with it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other question from the audience? Don't see hands raised. Okay. So I would like to thank you all. I think we delivered what data spaces ready in action means. So we got 3 concrete examples, 3 promising applications. So please join me in a round of applause for these 3 excellent panelists. Sorry?
Can I say one more thing?
You can say whatever you want.
I mean, I'm just looking at the clock, you know, and I'm one of the guys who was with Gaia-X from the first hour on, pretty much. And every year I said, nah, this is going down, this is going down. Surprise, surprise, surprise. 6 p.m. and there's still plenty of people over here. So I expect more people next year, and I think that beer goes for you, so the cheers is for you as well, huh?
Thank you.